And we're cutting across to more breaking news coming in. This with regards to the newly inducted MOS of tourism, Katie Alphons's bizarre justification of the fuel price hike that we've seen over the last few weeks. I want to go across to Aishwarya for more details. Aishwarya, the tourism minister right now saying that car and bike owners must pay the price. This is bizarre to say the least.
Well, absolutely. He's a newly inducted minister in the last cabinet reshuffle. The man who was earlier known as the demolition man this time around, rather embarrassing the government to the core. The kind of reaction which has come from him, that who buys petrol? Somebody who has a car or a bike. Certainly he's not starving. Someone who can afford has the money to pay for the petrol as well. So this is something he's trying to justify, the petrol hike. We've seen senior ministers coming out to the likes of the finance minister as well, Arun Jaitley, but towing a very balanced line. But for the first time this time around, we are seeing a minister in the Modi cabinet coming out and then justifying in such a brazen way. This is something which is embarrassing the government for sure, but this is also the same point of time. Mr. Alphons needs to see that the kind of reaction which he's given, he has embarrassed his own government, because the kind of reaction, the kind of language which has been used by him in this reaction is embarrassing, because he's saying that this is being done for the welfare of poor. How is the price of petrol being increased to this level for the welfare of the poor? If he has made this statement, he needs to justify this as well.
There's no doubt about that, Aishwarya, but let's once again listen in, at this point to what Katie Alphons said exactly.
That is because under the UPA government, all the money which the government had was being stolen by the ministers, by the ruling party members. The country was being sliced off by every minister and every political leader in this country. This government is not stealing money. It is using money for the sake of people. And for the sake of our motto is very simple. We are here for the welfare of the lowest of the downtrodden. To make houses for them, to build toilets for them, to send the children to school, to get electricity into every village. It's going to cost enormous amount of money. So we are going to tax people who can afford to pay. Who buys petrol? Somebody who's got a car? Somebody who's got a bike? Certainly he's not starving. So somebody who can afford to pay has to pay.
That is the statement that's come in from Katie Alphons. And Aishwarya, fuel prices have hit a 3-year high. And we've been seeing the government over the last few days desperately try to explain, try to justify exactly why we've seen this kind of a shocking hike in prices. But there's no doubt that Katie Alphons, in a way, has scored a self-goal at this point.
Well, that's right, because we've seen the finance minister himself, Arun Jaitley, coming out and rather trying to defend this. He has basically also referred to the climate change, so the kind of typhoons which are happening, the kind of hurricanes which are coming in the North America. So yes, several explanations have been given for this regard. But at the same point of time, this kind of bizarre explanation is there for the first time. This is something which is embarrassing the government. It's there for the first time. This is something which is embarrassing the government. He has put his own foot in his mouth and rather embarrassed the Modi government to the core, because stating what he has just did, and we've just heard the reaction that those people need to buy petrol who have money to buy car and motorcycles, and they can pay, and it's only for the welfare of the poor. This is not the kind of explanation which a union minister should be giving for this kind of price rise, for this kind of rise in petroleum prices. We've seen Dharmendra Pradhan, the cabinet minister, for the same, coming out and trying to defend it, but in a subtle way. This is a brazen explanation which this newly inducted minister in the Modi cabinet needs to understand, that he cannot give this kind of brazen explanation.
And even the comparison that he makes, it's strange, it's bizarre, as you pointed out, because at one point you understand what exactly is the definition of Aam Aadmi to Mr. Katie Alphons, and secondly, the comparison that he talks about the government working for the poor, he pretty much contradicts himself on that front.
Well, that's right. He says that this is a government which is working for the poor. This is a government which is working for their housing. But at the same point of time, he says that those who have a motorcycle, anyone who owns a car can give 100 rupees for a liter of petrol. And this is something which is completely self-contradictory. And also, this is going to have a lot of repercussions, because at the end of the day, any common man who drives a two-wheeler in this country does not supposedly have that kind of money to spend on petrol. This kind of price rise is going to directly affect the masses, and the government is aware about it. Thus, the kind of explanation which needs to come, especially from the union ministers, need to be very subtle and very balanced as well. And that is exactly what has happened till now, until KJ Alphons coming out and then giving this brazen explanation, embarrassing the government to the core, embarrassing the cabinet, and also the decision taken by this government.